Chapter 81 Obtain Penglai Secret Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It was the first time Qin Buyi heard such fresh and refined words from Zizui, and he couldn't help but jokingly said, "If I don't retreat, so what?" Huang Taisien was choked by Qin Buyi, and the words were stuck in his throat and he couldn't speak. After several breaths, he said in a low voice, "If you don't retreat, I will wait for you to come in." After saying this, Huang Taisien became so angry that he stopped talking. Qin Buyi said, "Then just stay in the Penglai secret realm and wait for me to break in." Kill, annihilate. After using Fatian Xiang Di, Qin Buyi's combat power increased sharply again. The full moon enveloped the island. The shadow of the killing blade condensed in the full moon is almost real, emitting cold light. Cut. Boom. Boom. The phantom shadows of nearly real killing blades fell on the island, the full moon dispersed and the island disappeared completely. At the remains of the original island, Qin Buyi once again found that unique spiritual energy node. Penglai secret realm is different from Qian world. Once the secret realm is discovered, even if the passage to the secret realm is closed and everything around the secret realm is destroyed, the existence of the secret realm can still be found. Qin Buyi's figure was like a big bow, holding the killing blade and aiming at the node with all his strength to strike. Killing and slaughtering. Chong, the high-speed vibrating killing blade landed on the node, making a harsh sound, and the two sides fell into a stalemate. Qin Buyi exerted all his strength, concentrated his strength on his arms and shouted, "Break it for me." Crack, a sound like peeling off and breaking came out. Crack, the spiritual energy nodes were overwhelmed and made a series of shattering sounds. Boom, after the loud noise, the portal into Penglai secret realm appeared again. Qin Buyi stepped into the door, returning to the secret realm of Penglai. Qin Buyi spread his spiritual thoughts to search for Huang Daxian. Unexpectedly, the spiritual thoughts were empty, and Huang Tai-Sin's voice sounded in the secret realm. "Don't waste your efforts. You can't find me. It's just a futile effort." Qin Buyi withdrew his spiritual thoughts and came to the center of Penglai secret realm. Huang Tai-Sin said again, "You are not going to conquer the secret realm and become the master of the secret realm, are you?" Qin Buyi, "You are right." "Huh, what did you say?" "This is the funniest joke I have ever heard. Human, have you damaged your brain through cultivation? I, the master of the secret realm, am still alive. It's just an idiot's dream for you to conquer the Penglai secret realm." Huang Taisien laughed. "Qin Buyi, whether it's just a dream or not, you'll know later. Take out the core of the secret realm and place it in the center of the Penglai secret realm." The core of the secret realm broke away from Qin Buyi's hand and hung in the air, emitting colorful lights. The spiritual energy in Penglai's secret realm flows into the core of the secret realm like all rivers returning to the sea. Most of the spiritual energy in the secret realm disappeared in just a few dozen breaths. Huang Taisien said in a somewhat flustered tone, "Human, what have you done? Stop, we have something to discuss." There is no room for Huang Tai-Sin to be impatient. One of the most important things in a secret realm is spiritual energy. Now that the spiritual energy is being sucked away, it is like destroying the foundation of the secret realm. "Qin Buyi, I want Penglai's secret realm. How can we negotiate this?" "Humph, it's impossible, don't even think about it." Huang Daxian refused Qin Buyi's request without even thinking about it. "Qin Buyi, if you say that, then there is no discussion." The whole day was filled with chatter, and the atmosphere fell into silence. The core of the secret realm is still absorbing spiritual energy continuously. Dozens of breaths later, the spiritual energy in the Penglai secret realm suddenly disappeared, and the secret realm began to shake. "Human, if you don't get it, you will destroy it. It's so crazy." Huang Tai-Sin said angrily. Qin Buyi said nothing, patiently waiting for the core of the secret realm to completely control the Penglai secret realm. Seeing that Qin Buyi didn't speak, Huang Daxian continued, "Humph, even if Penglai's secret realm becomes a ruin, I won't give it to you." The atmosphere fell into silence again, the vibrations in the secret realm became more and more intense, and Huang Tai-Sin couldn't hold back his anger and said, "Human, you don't really want to destroy this secret realm. How about this, I'll give you a lot of spiritual stones and you can leave." Qin Buyi, when I take control of the secret realm and find you, all the spiritual stones in your body are mine, so why bother? You. Bullying is too much. Since you won't leave on your own, I have no choice but to drive you out by force. Seeing that there was no room for negotiation, Wang Tai-sin repeated his old trick. Look, I'm a human being, but I'm also a god. The secret realm of Penglai once again locked onto Qin Buyi. As Huang Taisien continued to ask, the feeling of locking him became stronger and stronger. Qin Buyi waited patiently without speaking. Suddenly Qin Buyi's eyes lit up and he said, "Here he comes." Ding. The small thousand worlds merge into the secret realm of Penglai. The fusion is completed and will soon merge into one. Huang Taisien felt that his authority as the master of Penglai's secret realm was rapidly losing in his body, and he said in shock, "Human, what evil methods did you use?" Qin Buyi's sense of being locked in the Penglai secret realm disappeared instantly. The next moment, Qin Buyi and Huang Daxian's eyes dazzled. When their sight returned again, the two of them were already in the small thousand world. Everyone in Shaoqian world felt a shock, and the next moment the area doubled. Qin Buyi grabbed Huang Daxian in front of him and said, "I think you are a sand sculpture, your head doesn't look very bright." Huang Daxian was held in the palm of Qin Buyi's hand, looking horrified. "Human, what are you going to do? Let me tell you, we are all civilized people. We must not be rude and we must persuade others with virtue." Qin Buyi looked at Huang Taisien jokingly and said, "I am familiar with convincing people with virtue. Shaoqing, come here." Qin Buyi's voice echoed throughout the small world. Shaoqing was looking at her new home with joy at this time. The Lan family built a very large palace for Shaoqing these days. The specifications are completely based on Shaoqing's growth. The palm-sized Shaoqing was patrolling back and forth in the palace when he heard Qin Buyi calling him, immediately flew towards Qin Buyi. In less than 2 breaths, he came to Qin Buyi. "Master, I'm here." After saying that, he looked at the palm-sized Wang Tai-sin curiously. Wang Tai-sin also looked at Shaoqing and said to himself, "Rabbit eyes. Snake body. Antlers. Paw. Hey, let me go, this is a real dragon." Xiaoqing's eyes were full of questions, and she looked at Qin Buyi as if to say, "Master, where did you get this fool from?" Qin Buyi sent a message to Shaoqing and briefly explained what happened. After hearing this, Shaoqing's eyes sparkled and she looked at Wang Tai-sin as if she had found a new toy. Wang Taisien didn't know that he was about to fall into the tiger's mouth, so he said to Qin Buyi in disbelief, "Human, where did you get the real dragon?" Qin Buyi glanced at Shaoqing, and Shaoqing immediately understood. Wang Tai-sin did not feel the danger coming, and said to himself, "No matter where you got the real dragon, let me out first. Then, return my secret realm to me." Chapter 82 Great Progress in Cultivation and Convincing People with Virtue. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A dragon roar sounded in Shaoqian world. Shaoqing's dragon claws carried Wang Tai-sin and flew towards the distance. "Hey, you, what are you going to do? Human beings, conquer others with virtue." Wang Tai-sin trembled under the power of Shaoqing's powerful dragon. The hierarchy among monsters is very strict. As the top of the food chain, the dragon clan completely defeats Wang Tai-sin in terms of bloodline suppression. Wang Tai-sin did not dare to resist at all and could only shout. Qin Buyi replied from a distance, "Yes, Shaoqing will take you to experience convincing others with virtue." After a pause, Qin Buyi added, "Shaoqing, be gentle, don't get killed." Hearing this, Huang Taisien trembled even more violently, kicked up his short legs and shouted, "Let me out, let me out." Shaoqing held Huang Taisien and said happily, "The master said that the secret realm has not been returned to you, so I can't let you leave." Wang Tai-sin said blankly, "Yes, there is also my secret realm. Human being, you must return the secret realm to me." Qin Buyi listened to Shaoqing's hearty dragon roar and Wang Tai-sin's shout in the distance. "We agreed to convince people with virtue, but why do you beat them? I don't want the secret realm anymore, don't hit me. Let me out." Qin Buyi sent a message to Shaoqing, "Shaoqing, train him well." "Shaoqing, I obey, master." The news that Shaoqing beat Wang Taixin quickly spread throughout the Shaoqian world. Everyone in Shaoqian world stopped practicing and looked at this scene in the sky. Qian came to Qin Buyi and said, "Where did this weasel come from?" Qin Buyi, Penglai secret realm. Qian nodded and said, "I was curious before, why the three major secret realms have not spent so much effort to break into the Penglai secret realm. It turns out that there is a weasel in the early stage of integration that controls the secret realm. This is not surprising." Lang Yi on the ground watched Shaoqing beating Wang Taixin and murmured, "I didn't expect that the usually cute boss Shaoqing would be so cruel. It seems that I can't make boss Shaoqing angry in the future." Yes, after getting along for a period of time, Shaoqing and Qin Buyi had a close relationship. Shaoqing has become the boss of everyone in Shaoqian's world. Everyone in the Lan family also murmured, "I can't believe that the usually innocent boss Shaoqing can be so evil. I thought boss Shaoqing was just a mascot, but I didn't expect him to be so powerful in combat." Tiger-headed military advisor Lang Yi, "Have you ever seen boss Shaoqing show off his power?" That the Lan family disciple next to Lang Yi pushed him and asked, "Lang Yi, of course I have seen it. When boss Shaoqing actually fights, the dragon body is hundreds of feet big." Upon hearing this, everyone became interested and listened attentively to what Lang Yi continued. Lang Yi saw that everyone was in high spirits and started talking and making up stories. "By the way, when boss Shaoqing and I met, boss Shaoqing ate a void refining realm in one bite. The battle was so dark that the ghosts and gods were frightened. After half an hour, Shaoqing flew in front, and the swollen Wang Taixin followed dejectedly. Arriving in front of Qin Buyi, Shaoqing said, "Master, the mission has been successfully completed." After saying that, the dragon's claw slapped Wang Taixin on the head, causing Wang Taixin to stagger. Wang Taixin rubbed his head and said reluctantly, "Human." Snapped. Shaoqing's dragon claw hit Wang Taixin on the head again and corrected him, "Xiao Huang, what should you be called?" Wang Taixin, "Master." "That's pretty much it." Shaoqing nodded with satisfaction. Qin Buyi deliberately rubbed salt into Huang Daxian's wounds and said, "Do you still want the secret realm?" Huang Taixin covered his head and hummed, "No more." Qin Buyi, "Then do you still want me to let you out?" Huang Taixin's eyes lit up, then he remembered the scene when Shaoqing beat him, shook his head and said, "I won't go out anymore." Qin Buyi said with satisfaction, "Well, that's right, this will be your home from now on." After speaking, he looked at Shaoqing and said, "Shaoqing, take it down and let it get familiar with its new home." "Okay, sir." Shaoqing carries Wang Taixin and leaves. Qian praised, "Little friend Qin, you can subdue an early-stage fusion realm monster without a word. That's awesome, I'm ashamed of myself." Qin Buyi wrote lightly, "It's not a big deal." Ding, epic mission, obtain Penglai secret realm within 1 year, completed. The task reward has been issued. The system beep came, compared with the last time to obtain the star core of the Luo Xing Mountains, this epic mission was too easy. It was as simple as eating and drinking, but if you think about it carefully, if it weren't for Qin Buyi's rapid growth in cultivation and breakthrough to the combined state, facing the final boss Huang Taixin in the early stage of the fusion realm, it is estimated that it will take a lot of hard work to win the Penglai secret realm. There are 3 rewards for epic missions, namely, intermediate Tianhuang body, 50 attribute points, and a broken blade. Taking out the broken blade, Qin Buyi attached the blade to the corresponding part of the killing blade. Zhang. The killing blade made a sound. The broken blade and the killing blade gradually merged together. After a breath, the killing blade shook, and the two completely merged together. At the same time, the murderous aura coming from Seshabada became even stronger. Qin Buyi added 50 attributes to himself and opened the personal information panel. Name, Qin Buyi, Tianhuangti, intermediate. All attributes increase by %. Cultivation level, 6th level, middle stage of integration, 692/1000. Divine thought, late stage of integration, power, 692. Speed, 692. Stamina, 692. Attack, 692. Defense, 692. Luck, 692. Killing blade level 692, 1000/. broken blade, 2/9, attack increase, 20.00%, attack, 692. Killing sword technique, level 200. 200/- cannot break through without follow-up, attack, 200. Qinglong, level 692, 1000/- after Tianhuang is promoted to the intermediate level, the increase in all attributes increases from 5% to %. The killing blade merged with a broken blade again, and the attack power doubled, increased from the original 20% to %. After adding 50 points of attributes, Qin Buyi's cultivation level broke through from the early stage of integration to the middle stage of integration, and his spiritual mind broke through to the late stage of integration. After digesting the epic mission rewards, Qin Buyi's combat power increased greatly. With Qin Buyi's current fighting strength, it is not a problem to fight against the late-stage fusion. Even if the fusion is complete, he can still fight. The next step is to go to the secret realm of awakening to obtain the 5th and 6th forms of the killing sword technique. Qin Buyi thought to himself. After coming back to his senses, Qin Buyi looked at Qiyun looking at him with his mouth wide open, and asked, "Old Qi, what's wrong?" Qiyun stammered, You broke through again." Qin Buyi nodded and admitted. Qiyun sighed, "Comparing people with others will lead to death, and comparing goods with goods will lead to throwing away. It's only been a while since you broke through to the early stage of the fusion realm, and now you've broken through again." Just now, Qiyun was beside Qin Buyi and watched with his own eyes as Qin Buyi's aura increased rapidly and his whole person underwent tremendous changes from the inside out. This made Qiyun lament that Qin Buyi was a genius, but at the same time he felt a deep sense of frustration in his heart. Chapter 83, Opening the Secret Realm of Awakening Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qiyun said goodbye to Qin Buyi after sighing and went to practice hard. Qin Buyi took back Fa Tian Xiang Di and called the system in his heart, "System, open the secret realm of awakening." The secret realm of awakening is opening. The secret realm of awakening has been opened. Host is transmitting. The system prompt sounded in my ear. A strong sense of teleportation appeared on Qin Buyi. A quarter of an hour later, Qin Buyi's figure appeared in the ruined heaven. The once glorious heaven has turned into ruins, exuding an atmosphere of simplicity and vicissitudes of life. The second time he came here, the shock to Qin Buyi's heart was still great. In front of the Nantian gate, the killing blade in Qin Buyi's hand vibrated. A red light flashed from the killing blade, and the red lotus figure appeared in front of Qin Buyi. Duran was dressed in red, and her beautiful face looked particularly beautiful against the red outfit. As soon as he came out, he looked at Qin Buyi and said, "Boy, the 5th and 6th forms of killing swordsmanship are not so easy to obtain. Are you prepared for a narrow escape? If you're scared, it's not too late to give up now." Qin Buyi frowned slightly. "I'm ready, so what if I narrowly escape death?" Honglian, "Boy, if you die this time, don't blame me." Qin Buyi, "As the sword in my hand, you just call me your master." Honglian said disdainfully, Master, are you dreaming? I admit that your cultivation has advanced rapidly, and you have broken through to the combined state in a short period of time. But your cultivation speed is nothing in ancient times. If you want to be my master, you are still very early." Qin Buyi interrupted Honglian and said, "Stop talking nonsense and let's get started." Honglian stopped talking and looked at Qin Buyi. Next moment, snapped. Honglian instantly appeared in front of Qin Buyi and stretched out his right palm to hit Qin Buyi's body. Qin Buyi's eyes darkened, and his consciousness fell into silence with Honglian's palm. When he woke up again, Qin Buyi found himself deep in a sea of blood. The sea of blood is endless, churning with waves. Qin Buyi controlled his body to hang above the sea of blood. The red lotus figure emerged from the sea of blood. Qin Buyi asked, "Where is this place?" Honglian's faint voice came out, "The depths of the killing blade here are also where I live. Just now I pulled your consciousness here, and you are now a conscious body." The 5th form of the killing sword technique, annihilation. This sword technique is to completely erase everything from the world. Whether it is material or spiritual, under this sword technique, it will completely disappear from this world. Qin Buyi said, "Then what should I do next?" Honglian said, "Perception, experience." This is the only thing you have to do next. Finding the true meaning of annihilation under the wash of blood again and again. As time goes by, the risk will become higher and higher. You will realize everything by yourself. Qin Buyi seemed to understand Honglian's misty words. The next second, Qin Buyi felt a strong binding force on his body, pull him from mid-air to the surface of the sea of blood. Honglian's bare feet stood above the sea of blood and waved her delicate hands. Suddenly, the sea of blood surged violently, and the waves splashed on Qin Buyi. Qin Buyi sat cross-legged on the surface of the sea of blood, and his body was quickly wet by the waves. The sea of blood was like washing away rocks in the sea, and waves of blood hit Qin Buyi one after another. A trace of undetectable murderous intention followed Xuelong and entered Qin Buyi's body. Qin Buyi controlled his spiritual thoughts to fight against the killing intent in the blood wave. One day passed. Throughout the day, the murderous intent in the blood wave became stronger and stronger. Qin Buyi was calm at the beginning, but now he is fully focused and does not dare to relax at all. A month has passed. Qin Buyi, sitting cross-legged on the surface of the sea of blood, opened his eyes. There was a faint hint of bright blood red in the pupils of his eyes. After this month, Qin Buyi's murderous intention became more and more intense. It has reached the point where it affects Qin Buyi's behavior. But Qin Buyi didn't feel the slightest bit about Honglian's true meaning of annihilation. Under the influence of murderous intent, Qin Buyi gradually became violent. Half a year has passed. Qin Buyi's eyes were completely filled with blood red. The murderous intention in his heart surrounded Qin Buyi's spiritual thoughts in the center. Qin Buyi stubbornly held on to the last trace of clarity in his heart. He no longer has the energy to feel the true meaning of annihilation. 1 year has passed. A roar filled with murderous intent came out from the sea of blood. The last trace of clarity in Qin Buyi's heart was infected by the murderous intention. Standing up from the surface of the sea of blood, Qin Buyi's murderous intention had condensed into substance. Kill! 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 Qin Buyi's body ran wildly on the surface of the blood sea, and his fists and feet attacked the blood sea below from time to time. Boom! Boom! That every time Qin Buyi's attack landed on the sea of blood, it stirred up huge waves. Honglian watched this scene with interest from above, the corners of her mouth slightly raised. The previous part was just a warm-up, now the show officially begins. After the last trace of clarity was occupied by murderous intent, Qin Buyi felt as if he had arrived in a strange space. There was a blood mist around him, and countless voices in the blood dance shouted at him, "Kill! Kill them all! Kill them all! Killing is the most beautiful thing in the world." Qin Buyi's consciousness began to sync with these voices, and he murmured, "Kill! Kill!" That at this moment, the small red sword formed in Qin Buyi's heart system gave out a cool feeling. The coolness instantly pulled Qin Buyi's consciousness out of his sinking state. Qin Buyi woke up with a cold sweat breaking out from his back. It's so suspenseful. Qin Buyi was about to sink just now. From now on, he will completely lose his mind and turn into a beast that only knows killing. The coolness protected Qin Buyi's consciousness and dispersed the blood mist, allowing him to regain control of his body. Honglian looked at Qin Buyi with clear eyes above the sea of blood, and said to herself in surprise, "I actually woke up so quickly." Although Qin Buyi's eyes cleared up, the murderous intention condensed in his body did not diminish at all. The next second, murderous intent once again occupied Qin Buyi's consciousness. Qin Buyi's eyes were blood red and he roared, "Kill!" That he started attacking crazily towards the sea of blood below. The attack was without any plan, just like an ordinary person without any cultivation. "Wake me up!" Qin Buyi broke through the murderous intention and his eyes became clear again. Before Qin Buyi could completely control his body, his murderous intent took over again. A month passed, and Qin Buyi's state switched back and forth between murderous intent and clarity. As the two sides continued to confront each other, the two states began to merge together. When the murderous intention takes over, Qin Buyi's consciousness can also clearly control his body, and when Qin Buyi's consciousness has the upper hand, his murderous intent can also control Qin Buyi's body. Another half year has passed. Qin Buyi's eyes were blood red at this time, but his consciousness was very clear and he was controlling himself. Chapter 84 Battle against Honglian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The murderous intention has been perfectly integrated with Qin Buyi and will no longer have the slightest impact on Qin Buyi. The waves of blood from the sea of blood were still hitting Qin Buyi's body. Qin Buyi stood on the surface of the blood sea and let the waves of blood hit him. Crack crack. Honglian clapped her hands and came to Qin Buyi's side, saying, "You have passed the first step." Qin Buyi looked at Honglian and asked, "What's the next step?" Unexpectedly, Honglian smiled slightly and said with evil intentions, "Boy, you said I hate you so much, can I tell you the next step? You are not qualified to be my master. Next, wait for death in the sea of blood. This is the way of death I carefully selected for you. Do you still like it?" After Qin Buyi heard this, he stood speechless for a long time. Suddenly, Qin Buyi laughed, laughing very happily. "Honglian, why are you laughing? Are you scared out of your mind?" Qin Buyi looked at Honglian and said word by word, "You really can't wait for me to die. I think about the devourer all the time. If you want me to die so much, why did you help me twice before? If you didn't help me, wouldn't it be as you wished?" Honglian looked cold and said, "Death, you can only die in my hands. I want to kill the person Honglian wants to kill, but it's not someone else's turn to do it yet." Qin Buyi chuckled and said, "Okay, very good. I like the way you chose to die, but I'm not happy with the way you spoke. Besides, I'm not ready to die now, so I have no choice but to live up to your kindness, Honglian." Honglian sneered and said, "You damn duck has a tough mouth, let me see how you break the situation. Die in the attack of the sea of blood." After speaking, Honglian stretched out her delicate fingers and pointed at the sea of blood. Blood arrows composed of waves in the blood sea were shot towards Qin Buyi. Qin Buyi subconsciously wanted to draw out the killing blade, but the feedback I got was empty. Qin Buyi wanted to fly into the air to avoid the blood arrow attack. A powerful restraint came from his body, firmly binding Qin Buyi's body to the surface of the sea of blood. In desperation, Qin Buyi had no choice but to turn around and run away, trying to avoid the blood arrow attack. Boom! The blood arrow grazed Qin Buyi's body and shot into the sea of blood, creating huge waves in the sea of blood. The shock wave brought by the waves caused Qin Buyi to fall instantly to the surface of the sea of blood. Qin Buyi quickly stood up, trying to avoid the bloody arrows behind him. After all, it was still a step too late. After dodging most of the blood arrows, a small number of them landed on Qin Buyi. Chi! Bang! Chi! Hi! Bang! The blood arrows passed through Qin Buyi's body, leaving several holes as big as bowls, and then disappeared immediately. Qin Buyi looked at the bowl-sized hole in his body. There was no blood in the hole and it healed on its own after a few breaths. After all the injuries on his body were healed, Qin Buyi felt weak. It's like recovering from a serious illness. Qin Buyi understood everything after thinking about it. At this time, his consciousness was pulled into the sea of blood by Red Lotus, and his body was entirely composed of spiritual thoughts. The reason why body injuries can heal quickly in the sea of blood is also because of spiritual thoughts. Injury to the body consumes his spiritual thoughts. After his spiritual thoughts are exhausted, Qin Buyi will die. Qin Buyi looked at Honglian and said, "Honglian, good means and good strategy." Honglian said calmly, "Have you discovered it? But don't you think you discovered it a little late?" Dense blood arrows gathered above the blood sea, all aimed at Qin Buyi. Honglian pointed at Qin Buyi and said, "Go." Whizzing. Whoosh. Countless blood arrows created sonic booms in the air, aiming at Qin Buyi. Qin Buyi increased his speed and fled towards the distance. Honglian's sarcastic voice reached Qin Buyi's ears. "Why, without my help, you can only run away in embarrassment. In other words, the reason why you can survive until now is all because of my help. After losing my help, you became like a waste." While Qin Buyi was dodging the blood arrow attacks, he was quickly thinking of ways to break the situation. Listening to the sarcasm of the Red Lotus in the sky, Qin Buyi shouted angrily, "Noisy!" Qin Buyi, who didn't have a killing blade in his hand, couldn't display his combat power at all. At this time, Qin Buyi deeply realized the importance of the killing blade to himself. "I wanted to refute Honglian's words, but found that everything Honglian said was true, and I couldn't refute it at all." Honglian sneered and looked at Qin Buyi. who was escaping hastily below, "Boy, being angry and loud can't change the fact that you are about to die. Cherish the time you are living now, if there is an afterlife." At this point, Honglian pretended to be surprised. "Oh, I just remembered that you have no afterlife. After you are killed by me, I will completely crush your outside consciousness. I'm thinking about how to crush your sea of consciousness. I'll just use soul dispersion. It would be a beautiful thing for you to die under the scattered souls you often use to kill enemies." Qin Buyi listened to Honglian's murderous and heart-wrenching words. At this moment, he wanted to drag Honglian down from the sky, open Guren's mind and see what is going on in her head. Qin Buyi saw the murderous intention condensed into substance on his body, and an idea flashed in his mind. "It doesn't matter so much, let's treat a dead horse as a living horse doctor." Divine thoughts controlled the murderous intent that had condensed into substance and began to compress it continuously. Qin Buyi quickly encountered obstacles, and his murderous intention tried his best to resist the compression of his spiritual thoughts. Just when the two sides were in a stalemate, the blood-red sword on his chest once again let out a cool breath. The cool breath blended into Qin Buyi's spiritual thoughts, and his spiritual thoughts were immediately blessed several times. The murderous intention was compressed by divine thoughts, and its volume shrank little by little. After a few breaths, the compressed killing intent began to take shape. After a dozen breaths, a blood-red long knife appeared in front of Qin Buyi. Qin Buyi grasped the blood-red sword. "Turn around and kill the countless blood arrows behind you. Kill, annihilate." A full moon rose from the sea of blood. The full moon enveloped all the blood arrows, and the shadow of a long bloody sword condensed from the full moon. The shadow of the long knife collided with the blood arrow in the full moon. Chang! 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 The full moon dispersed, and the blood arrow following Qin Buyi also disappeared at the same time. When Honglian saw the bloody sword in Qin Buyi's hand, the expression on her face changed again and again. How did you do it?" Honglian asked in confusion. Qin Buyi looked at Honglian and said, "Next, I will show you whether I am a waste without your help. Killing life and death realm. Kill, annihilate. Killing and slaughtering. Killing creatures and scattering souls." The dark realm rapidly expanded with Qin Buyi as the center. The blood moon rises in the blood sea, covering the red lotus. Countless blood-red sword phantoms attacked Honglian. Crack! Qin Buyi's body made a crisp sound, and the restraint of the sea of blood on Qin Buyi suddenly disappeared. Qin Buyi held a long knife and flew towards Honglian. Chapter 85 Battle against Honglian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The high-speed vibrating killing blade struck Guren. Honglian looked at Qin Buyi in disbelief. "How dare you attack me?" The next moment, Honglian's eyes, feeling that she was being provoked by Qin Buyi, were full of anger and murderous intent. "Since you want to die, I will fulfill you. As long as you cut off a piece of my clothes today, you will pass. I will no longer embarrass you. I will teach you the 5th and 6th forms of the killing sword technique immediately." "Qin Buyi, Honglian, you have talked too much nonsense today. I'm going to let you know now that it's the same with or without you. Don't always take yourself too seriously." What Honglian said just now completely angered Qin Buyi. Honglian seemed to have heard a fantasy and said angrily, "No one has ever dared to talk to me like this. You are the first." Qin Buyi looked at Honglian mockingly. "Why, you can't bear it anymore. As the sword in my hand, today I will teach you how to respect your master." Honglian held her slender hand empty, and a similar long knife appeared in her hand, blocking Qin Buyi's attack. "Boy, you are courting death," Qin Buyi said disdainfully. "You've said this too many times. I'm tired of hearing it. Let's try something new." Suddenly, the blood-red long knife in Qin Buyi's hand turned into the size of a palm and rushed into the red lotus sea of consciousness at an extremely fast speed. Honglian stayed on the spot without dodging, letting the long knife as big as a palm enter the sea of his consciousness. "Qin Buyi, I won't take advantage of you. I will fight with the same strength as you." This is the first time Honglian has officially called Qin Buyi's name since they met, which shows how angry she is. "As long as you can cut off a piece of my clothes, you will win. If you can't do it, just die." killing creatures and scattering souls, that the long knife in Honglian's hand also became smaller and stabbed into Qin Buyi's knowledge sea. The two long knives attacked each other crazily in the sea of consciousness. Boom! 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 After a few breaths, Honglian and Qin Buyi looked at each other with equally pale faces. Honglian held it empty in her hand, and a blood-red long knife appeared in her hand again. Killing and slaughtering, Qin Buyi, who had no time to defend himself, was hit by the blood-red long knife that vibrated at high speed. Boom! Qin Buyi's figure crashed into the blood sea from above. Quickly standing up in the sea of blood, Qin Buyi's spiritual thoughts once again compressed the murderous intention in his body. In an instant, a blood-red long knife appeared in Qin Buyi's hand. Holding the long knife, he killed Honglian again. On the way, Qin Buyi said, "This bullshit that annihilates the true meaning is all a trick you made up to kill me. Since you don't give me the follow-up to the killing sword technique, I will beat you until you give it to me." Chung! The two long knives collided, and a harsh sound was heard in the sea of blood. Honglian said with murderous intent, "Very good, just what I want. I have wanted to teach you a lesson for a long time." Honglian swung her long sword and struck Qin Buyi hard. Boom! Qin Buyi was knocked down from the sky again. "Honglian, you are obviously very weak in cultivation, but you insist on becoming my master. You are worthy." Before Qin Buyi could get up from the sea of blood, Honglian's offensive had arrived. Boom! The red lotus sword was pressed against Qin Buyi's throat. "Honglian, did you see it? This is the gap between you and me. It's a world of difference." He turned the back of the knife and struck Qin Buyi hard. Boom! Qin Buyi was whipped away by the knife, and the strong force coming from the knife made him fall on the sea of blood and slide for dozens of meters before stopping. Whoosh! Honglian instantly appeared in front of Qin Buyi, dropped the long knife in his hand, made fists with both hands, and struck Qin Buyi. Boom! Qin Buyi's body was knocked into the air. Honglian is unforgiving when he gains the upper hand, just like punching sandbags in the air. Every punch and every kick landed heavily on Qin Buyi. "With this little strength, you dare to challenge me?" Cough cough. Qin Buyi, who was at a disadvantage, kept coughing. "Every time I cough, some of my spiritual thoughts will dissipate, and my body's feeling of weakness will become stronger and stronger. If it weren't for Qin Buyi's body composed of spiritual thoughts, I'm afraid Qin Buyi's internal organs have been damaged now, and blood is spitting out as if he doesn't want money. Guren, even if there is a world of difference, I am still your master." When Honglian heard this, the murderous intent in her eyes became even more intense. "If you insist on speaking harshly even when you are about to die, I will send you to death right now. Kill." Before Honglian finished speaking, Qin Buyi controlled the long sword in the Honglian Sea of Consciousness and slashed at the Honglian Sea of Consciousness with all his strength. Taking advantage of the moment when Honglian was distracted, Qin Buyi seized the opportunity. He grabbed Honglian's wrist and slammed Honglian towards the sea of blood. Boom! Qin Buyi continued to attack, but a tearing pain suddenly came from the sea of consciousness. Qin Buyi endured the severe pain and flew towards Honglian, while controlling the long knife to attack crazily in Honglian's sea of consciousness. At this time, Qin Buyi Shihai's pain became more and more severe. Qin Buyi and Honglian used the same moves to attack each other, while enduring the pain from each other's attacks. Qin Buyi came to Honglian, threw away the long knife in his hand, and punched Honglian. "I can fight hand to hand, too." Boom! Honglian also punched Qin Buyi. Qin Buyi and Honglian attacked each other regardless of their own harm. Whoever can persist to the end of this battle will be the winner. The battle in the Blood Sea lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. On the 4th day, Qin Buyi's body, which was condensed with his spiritual thoughts, had faded to a transparent state. Although Guren has the upper hand these days, her condition is not very good either. His face turned pale, and his attacks began to fail. Honglian looked at Qin Buyi, who had a transparent body, and said, Qin Buyi, please keep your words. Do you now clearly realize the gap between you and me? Qin Buyi forced his mind to maintain his body and laughed. As the master, I am very happy to see the weapon in my hand is so powerful. Honglian, you've already reached this point and you're still holding on. Let's see how long you can hold on. After saying that, Honglian and Qin Buyi fought together again. Bang! Bang! Boom! After some fighting, Qin Buyi lay on the sea of blood, his body faded to the point where he was almost invisible. Honglian rode on Qin Buyi and raised his fist and said, "Qin Buyi, if I attack with this punch, you will die completely. Now I'll give you a chance to live. As long as you promise not to let me be your weapon, I will let you go." Qin Buyi stretched out his finger, pointed at the extremely misleading gesture on both sides, and said jokingly, "If you don't make weapons, what do you want to do?" "Make." Before Qin Buyi could finish speaking, Honglian interrupted him with a gloomy expression. "Put away your despicable thoughts and let me go if you want to survive." Qin Buyi looked at Honglian seriously and said, "The reason why you don't continue to attack is because you don't dare." Honglian's eyes flashed with panic, then disappeared immediately, pretending to be calm and said, "What do you mean?" Qin Buyi made it clear without any hesitation, "You and I know it very well. If you kill me, you won't be able to survive." Chapter 86 Level 6 Killing Sword Technique. You are listening at Audio. As early as when the Killing Blade and Qin Buyi were forcibly bound together by the system, each other's fate was decided. If Honglian dies, Qin Buyi will be injured, but he will not die. Once anything unexpected happens to Qin Buyi, everyone who is forcibly bound to Qin Buyi will die. Qin Buyi explained what was in Honglian's heart, and her aura suddenly felt like a deflated rubber ball. Qin Buyi continued, "From the last time to this time, your purpose has never been to kill me. Killing me is just a pretense. Your real purpose is to let me let you go. In this way, it can also explain why you saved me twice." Honglian was stunned for a long time before saying, "When did you find out?" Qin Buyi, "Just when you stopped killing me, I had been thinking about why you saved me. You obviously want me to die, but you help me every time in an emergency. Now it seems that it is not just your so-called pride, but that you have to do this. After all, if I die, you will also be cold." Murderous intent burst out in Honglian's eyes again. She pinched Qin Buyi's throat and said coldly, "Aren't you afraid that I will really kill you and die with you together?" Cough. Qin Buyi was choked so hard that he coughed and said, "If you are really that crazy, I will admit it, but now it seems that you still cherish your life. At least in your heart, your life and my life are not the same weight at all. How could you die together with someone who is like an ant in your eyes?" The strength in Honglian's hand weakened, and most of the murderous intention in her body disappeared, and she asked, "How on earth are you willing to let me go?" Qin Buyi exerted force on his waist and abdomen, turned over and pressed Honglian under him, and said in a calm tone, "I will not let you go no matter what, even if Haotian comes." Seeing that Qin Buyi was determined not to let her go, Honglian's eyes dimmed. When he heard Qin Buyi calling Haotian by his first name, he said disdainfully, "How dare you call him by his first name?" Hearing Honglian protecting Haotian like this, Qin Buyi asked in an unclear tone, "What? Can't you talk about your little lover?" Honglian's face turned green and white, and she scolded angrily, "Don't just say whatever you want." Qin Buyi took advantage of Honglian's retort and looked at Honglian's beautiful face beneath him. He stretched out his right hand and accidentally touched Honglian's face. Honglian said angrily, "Qin Buyi, what are you doing? Get off me!" Qin Buyi came back to his senses and said with an afterthought, "It feels pretty good." You die." Guren clenched her fists. She had never been touched by the opposite sex since she was born. Now she was actually touched on the face by a cultivator of the fusion realm, which made her shocked and angry for a moment. Before Honglian could attack Qin Buyi stood up and said to Honglian without looking back, "Send me out now. It's up to you whether to pass on the killing sword technique or not." Honglian was stunned by Qin Buyi's words. She knew Qin Buyi well, and she also knew Qin Buyi's desire for killing swordsmanship, but now Qin Buyi actually wants to give up the follow-up of the killing sword technique. Guren now feels as if she holds many valuable and precious treasures in her hands, and these things are coveted by others, but suddenly one day, someone suddenly told her that although the treasure in her hand was valuable, the other party no longer needed it. This strong sense of contrast made Honglian feel very ridiculous. After sending Qin Buyi away, Honglian sat there for a long time before getting up. On the cheek touched by Qin Buyi, it seemed that the temperature and touch of Qin Buyi's palm could already be felt. Qin Buyi was sent to the Sea of Blood by Honglian and returned to his true form. There was a feeling of weakness and tearing pain in the Sea of Consciousness. Standing on the Nantian Gate, the killing blade was inserted not far away. Qin Buyi walked to the killing blade and pulled out the killing blade, preparing to call the system to leave the secret realm of awakening. Suddenly, a blood-red aura came from the killing blade. The blood-red aura rushed straight down Qin Buyi's arm into the Sea of Consciousness. After arriving at the Consciousness Sea, the blood-red aura was distributed throughout the damaged Consciousness Sea. The trauma suffered by the Sea of Consciousness recovered quickly, the tearing pain disappeared in a few breaths, and the feeling of weakness gradually subsided. After more than a dozen breaths, Qin Buyi recovered as before. After the blood-red breath healed the Sea of Consciousness, it revealed the information wrapped inside. Qin Buyi penetrated with his spiritual sense, and the message contained the fifth and sixth moves of the killing sword technique. The fifth form of the killing sword technique is called annihilation. The effect is exactly as Guren said, completely erasing everything attacked from spirit to matter. The sixth form of the killing sword technique is called slaying the immortal. Qin Buyi murmured, "What a domineering name." Immortal killing is an extremely powerful single-target attack sword technique. When paired with the annihilation saber technique, it can form a combo skill. Qin Buyi looked at the killing blade in his hand, flicked it on the killing blade and said, "Honglian, you are not good as you always want to devour the Lord." Zhang, that the killing blade made a sound, and the blade vibrated. Get the follow-up of killing sword technique. The killing sword technique, which was lagging too far behind, was finally able to break through. Qin Buyi, breakthrough. Two sounds like breaking glass were heard in succession. Qin Buyi opened the personal information panel. Name, Qin Buyi, Tian Huangti, intermediate, all attributes increase by, %, cultivation level, 6th level, middle stage of integration, 692/1000, divine thought, late stage of integration, power, 692. Speed, 692. Stamina, 692. Attack, 692. Defense, 692. Luck, 692. Killing blade level 692, 1000/, broken blade, 2/9, attack increase, 20.00%, attack, 692. Killing sword technique, level 692, 1000/, attack, 692. Qinglong, level 692, 1000/, Ha! The killing sword technique has finally caught up with the progress. Qin Buyi said with a long sigh of relief. Taking one last look at the broken heaven, Qin Buyi called to the system in his heart, "System, leave the secret realm of awakening. Host is transmitting." The familiar feeling of teleportation came, and Qin Buyi's eyes darkened. After the sense of teleportation disappeared, Qin Buyi appeared in the East China Sea of Blue Star. Qin Buyi calculated the time and found that he had stayed in the secret realm of awakening for a total of 1 year and 7 months this time. No wonder the system said that it will take a long time to awaken the secret realm this time. It is recommended that I obtain the Penglai secret realm first. If we go to the awakening secret realm first and stay for so long, the time for the epic mission Penglai secret realm will have passed long ago, and it will be dangerous by then. After determining the direction of the Lan family, Qin Buyi turned around and flew towards the Lan family. The purpose of going to Lan's house this time was to say goodbye. After saying goodbye, Qin Buyi will leave Blue Star and return to Luoxing mountain range. Chapter 87 Changes in the Small World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Midway through the flight, Qin Buyi suddenly had a thought in his mind, and his flying speed increased sharply to the center of the Blue Star. I don't know if this will work. Qin Buyi said to himself, take out the core of the secret realm and place it in the center of the Blue Star. The colorful rays of light on the core of the secret realm burst out, frantically absorbing spiritual energy towards the Blue Star. Qin Buyi waited patiently for 2 days and saw that the core of the secret realm was still absorbing spiritual energy without any movement. He couldn't help but ask the system in his heart, "System, how long will it take for the core of the secret realm to absorb the Blue Star?" System, it will take about 150 years, 3 months and 9 days. It takes so long. Qin Buyi asked in surprise. System, otherwise, what do you think? This is a planet that can reproduce life and has sound basic rules. It is different from the secret realms you absorbed. If your small world absorbs this planet, the most basic thing is that when it's windy, rainy, or thundering, all kinds of climate solar terms will appear naturally. From now on, there is no need for manual operation anymore. Qin Buyi said with a bit of depression in his voice. Okay. 150 years is too long, and Qin Buyi simply cannot wait. If he really wanted to absorb such a planet, Qin Buyi wouldn't have to do anything for the next 150 years. You have to stay next to the core of the secret realm all day long, reach out and retrieve the core of the secret realm. After the core of the secret realm stopped absorbing spiritual energy, Qin Buyi felt the remaining spiritual energy of Blue Star, which was much thinner. After such operations by the core of the secret realm, Blue Star's spiritual energy, which was already not rich, became even worse. Lan Wenhao of the Lan family was practicing when he suddenly opened his eyes and wondered, why is the spiritual energy suddenly so thin? After an hour, Qin Buyi came to Lan's house. When the children of the Lan family saw Qin Buyi, they all looked excited and hurriedly went inside to report to Lan Wenhao. As soon as Qin Buyi entered Lan's house, Lan Wenhao came towards him like a gust of wind. Before Qin Buyi could speak, Lan Wenhao hugged Qin Buyi and said, "Brother Qin, you are finally back. For a whole year and 7 months, I thought you had left Blue Star." Qin Buyi said seriously, "I have been dealing with some things for more than a year, and I am here to say goodbye just as Brother Wenhao said. Farewell." Did I really hit the mark? Lan Wenhao looked at Qin Buyi with wide eyes. Qin Buyi nodded and said, "As Brother Wenhao said, I am leaving Blue Star." "Brother Qin, where are you going?" Lan Wenhao asked. Lan Wenhao was not surprised at all that Qin Buyi found a way to leave Blue Star. Faced with Qin Buyi, whose cultivation was rapidly advancing and unfathomable, Lan Wenhao already had a blind understanding. In his opinion, among Blue Star practitioners, if even Qin Buyi doesn't have a way to leave Blue Star, let alone others, Qin Buyi said, it's a place far, far away from Blue Star. Once you leave, you may never return to Blue Star in this life. There are many children of the Lan family in my little world. What do you think of Brother Wenhao? Lan Wenhao thought for a moment and then said, "Brother Qin, can you please let me go to your little world to see them first, and then make a decision?" Qin Buyi's spiritual thoughts enveloped Lan Wenhao, and the next moment the two of them appeared in Qian world. After such a long period of construction by the Lan family, Qian world has undergone earth-shaking changes compared to before. The entire Little Thousand world is managed in an orderly manner. Various precious medicinal materials are planted in the elixir fields. There are cranes flying in the sky, and there are some other spiritual beasts playing with each other on the ground. Even though the children of the Lan family worked so hard to build it, there is still a large part of the small world that is not put to use. In the center of Qian time, a majestic hall stands on the ground. Next to the main hall, there are two smaller palaces surrounding the main hall. Slightly closer to the center of Qian world are the residences of many children of the Lan family. The richness of spiritual energy here is second only to the center of Qian world. Qin Buyi's thoughts dispersed and he realized that more than a year had passed. The cultivation level of many disciples of the Lan family has generally improved to a great level. Qin Buyi was not surprised at all by this result. The intensity of spiritual energy in Qian world has reached thousands of times that of Blue Star. Qin Buyi and Lan Wenhao flew to the residence of the Lan families. The children of the Lan family immediately became excited when they saw the two of them. "Everyone, gather together, the supreme elder and the head of the family are here." In a few breaths, everyone in the Lan family gathered. Then came Shao Qing, Wang Tai-sin, Qi Yun, and Long Yi. When Shao Qing saw Qin Buyi, he immediately flew to Qin Buyi's shoulder, stuck out his tongue and licked Qin Buyi's cheek and said, "Master, it's been a long time no see, I miss you so much." Qin Buyi pulled Shao Qing down and put it in his hands, stroking up and down the dragon's back with his big hands. The palm of his hand went around Shao Qing's belly again and pinched the flesh on Shao Qing's belly. Qin Buyi said with satisfaction, "Shao Qing still feels the same as before." Shao Qing allowed Qin Buyi's claws to touch her and didn't resist. Lan Wenhao was overjoyed when he saw the many disciples of the Lan family who had obviously advanced in cultivation, and he thought for a moment and said, "First of all, congratulations on your great progress in cultivation. I am here to ask you something." Lan Linglong walked out of the crowd and said, "Third uncle, please speak." Lan Wenhao continued, "You are all the elites of my Lan family, and now the Supreme Elder is going to other planets. I'm afraid I won't be able to return to Blue Star again in my lifetime. What do you think?" Many children of the Lan family looked at each other. After a while, a voice came from the crowd. "I would like to go with the Supreme Elder." Following the sound, other members of the Lan family said at the same time, "I would like to go with the Supreme Elder." "I am willing to go with the Supreme Elder." For many children of the Lan family, they have already considered Little Thousand Worlds as their home for more than a year. Moreover, the spiritual energy in Qian world is rich, and the resources produced in a large area are more than enough to support the cultivation of such a small group of people. Even 10 times more people than this can still be supplied. When leaving the Little Thousand World and returning to Blue Star, only a fool would go back if he needed aura but no aura, and if he needed resources but no resources. Besides, these Lan family disciples still want to follow Qin Buyi to see the outside world. Staying with Qin Buyi is far more promising than staying with Lan Wenhao. Lan Wenhao let out a long sigh. He had already guessed the answer when he came. Lan Wenhao said to Qin Buyi, "Brother Qin, I have something to ask of you." Qin Buyi said, "Brother Wenhao, please tell me." Lan Wenhao, Blue Star's spiritual energy is thin, and there is no future in Blue Star. I want to move the entire Lan family to the Qian world. I wonder what Brother Qin wants. Qin Buyi did not expect that Lan Wenhao would make such a decision, which meant that the entire Lan family would have to leave their hometown and follow him to other planets. Chapter 88 Meeting Qian again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qin Buyi, there are still so many places in Qian world that have not been developed. If Brother Wenhao wants to move the Lan family here, he can develop the Little Thousand World. Lan Wenhao raised his hands and said to Qin Buyi, "Thank you so much, Brother Qin." The next day, Qin Buyi stood in the Lan family. Lan Wenhao pointed at everyone in the Lan family and said, "Brother Qin, these are all the people in my Lan family." Qin Buyi's spiritual thoughts enveloped everyone in the Lan family, and in the next moment, everyone in the Lan family was moved to the small thousand world. After doing all this, Qin Buyi looked at Blue Star one last time and called the system in his heart. "System, leave Blue Star." Ding, enable transmission. A black hole the size of a portal appeared in front of him, and Qin Buyi stepped into it. Host is transmitting. His vision went dark, and when his vision returned again, Qin Buyi appeared in the Luoxing Mountains. Transmission complete. After several years, I finally came back again. Qin Buyi sighed. Qin Buyi took out the sound transmission jade talisman given by the third Prince Ingji from the storage space. His spiritual thoughts penetrated in, and he quickly received a response from the sound transmission jade talisman. The other party said tentatively, "Brother Qin." "Brother Ingji, long time no see." Qin Buyi greeted. "Brother Qin, you went out for training and came back." "Haha." Ingji sounded very happy. Qin Buyi, "Yes, I'm back." Ingji, "Brother Qin, where are you now?" "I'll find you." Qin Buyi, "I'm in the Luoxing Mountains." After sending the specific location to Ingji, Ingji replied almost instantly, "Brother Qin, it will definitely arrive in 2 hours." Hang up the contact with Ingji. Qin Buyi looked at the familiar Luoxing Mountains and felt a lot of emotion in his heart. The first time he was teleported was when he came here, and he was knocked down by the system and had a mouthful of mud. Now that I think about it, the system was definitely intentional. Thinking of this, Qin Buyi was quite confused about the call system. "System, last time I asked you a question, why didn't you mention the charge?" That the system said in a contemptuous tone. "I give up, you poor man. I can't squeeze any oil or water out of you, not even a steel penny." Qin Buyi laughed heartily and said, System, you are finally willing to surrender to reality." "System, my not-so-smart host, why are you getting more and more stupid?" Qin Buyi. You have left Blue Star. Shouldn't you change the way you speak from Blue Star's inferior movies? Speaking of this, Qin Buyi suddenly gloated. The most important thing is that this place is very far from Blue Star. If you want to watch inferior movies in the future, you won't be able to. The system sneered at Qin Buyi's idea and said, "Host, you underestimate the great system. I look at all the heavens and worlds just like you look at the lines in the palm of your hand. How difficult is this? Even time can be reversed and shown to you." Qin Buyi grasped the key point in the system's words. "System, what did you say?" "Reverse time." The system smiled brightly and said, "No, you heard wrong. How can I reverse something like time?" Seeing that the system refused to acknowledge it, Qin Buyi stopped asking. At the same time, in Xinyang City, which is very close to Luoxing mountain range, Qin Qian was drinking tea in the courtyard when she suddenly felt Qin Buyi's breath and said word by word, "Qin Buyi, you finally show up again. This time I will skin you and remove your bones." Qin Qian still had fresh memories of Qin Buyi, who had teased her and demanded money. The Fox clan holds grudges the most, not to mention the Qin Qian of the nine-tailed fox clan. For this reason, Qin Qian has been collecting various information about Qin Buyi since he returned to Blue Star. Since then, he has been settling in Xinyang City next to Luoxing mountain range. Qin Qian has always secretly believed that if Qin Buyi comes back again, he will appear in the Luoxing mountains. Qin Qian's figure flew up from the courtyard and headed towards Qin Buyi's direction at high speed. Qin Buyi waited patiently for Ingji on the spot, but to his surprise, Ingji didn't wait. The first one to arrive was Qin Qian. Almost the moment Qin Qian saw Qin Buyi also saw her. Enemies are extremely jealous when they meet. This sentence is perfect for Qin Qian now. Qin Qian shouted angrily, "Qin Buyi, you little thief who used a bunch of cheap food to defraud me of many treasures, let's see where you go this time." Qin Buyi was a little surprised to see Qin Qian. Unexpectedly, Qin Qian was still worried about her original behavior in the past few years. Qin Buyi looked at Qin Qian with his probing eyes. The result he got from his probing eyes was that he was in the early stage of overcoming the tribulation. Qin Buyi's eyes narrowed, transcending the tribulation realm. Qin Qian sensed Qin Buyi's cultivation at this time and said in surprise, "In just a few years, you actually broke through from the nascent soul realm to the middle stage of integration. How is this possible?" After saying that, Qin Qian paused and snorted coldly, "So what if you break through to the middle stage of integration? You are still no match against me who has cultivated in the tribulation realm." Qin Buyi has made great progress in cultivation, especially after acquiring the killing sword technique, but he has not really tested his own combat power. At this time, facing Qin Qian, who was in the early stage of overcoming the catastrophe, Qin Buyi was full of fighting spirit. "Qin Buyi, you have to fight to know whether he is your opponent or not." Qin Qian narrowed her eyes and looked at Qin Buyi. "Qin Buyi, I didn't expect you to be so courageous after not seeing each other for several years." "Okay, very good." Qin Buyi deliberately provoked Qin Qian and said, "The main reason is that in the past few years, I have never met any stupid fox who would give me all his belongings just for food." After a pause, Qin Buyi looked at Qin Qian and said sincerely, "Except you." Qin Qian's eyes were full of anger and she shouted, "You are looking for death. Next, I will let you know that returning to the Tianhuang realm is the most wrong thing you have done in your life." Qin Buyi listened to what Qin Qian said and thought to himself, it turns out that this planet is called Tianhuang realm. Tianhuang sword technique, stab. A long sword appeared out of thin air in Qin Qian's hand and stabbed Qin Buyi. The long sword seemed to be slow, but it was fast. In the blink of an eye, it had reached Qin Buyi's throat. Chong. Qin Buyi instantly drew out his killing blade and blocked it with the long sword in Qin Qian's hand. Killing and slaughtering. The high-speed vibrating killing blade collided with the long sword. Chong. Sparks flew everywhere, and a huge force came from the sword. Qin Buyi was knocked away by the huge force and hit a giant tree growing in the Luoxing mountains. Bang! 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 After knocking down more than a dozen big trees in the sky that required 5 or 6 people to surround him, Qin Buyi stopped. looking at Qin Qian who was attacking again. Qin Buyi clicked his foot on the void and shouted, "Kill the living creatures and kill them all." A full moon rises in the falling star mountains, shrouding Qin Qian in the center. Countless shadows of killing blades condensed in the full moon, killing Qin Qian. Qin Qian, you can show off your trivial skills even though you have the guts to do so. Let me see the real difference between the tribulation realm and the fusion realm. Tianhuang Sword Ju Zhen. Chapter 89. Qin Buyi was consecrated by the system. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The long sword in Qin Qian's hand emits sword light, drawing a circle around itself. The circle formed by the sword light continued to spread outward, until it was as big as the full moon. Shock. With Qin Qian's soft drink, the sword light exploded instantly, tearing the full moon into pieces. When the sword light dissipated, the full moon also disappeared. Qin Qian, Qin Buyi, use whatever means you have, lest you regret that you didn't go all out when you were killed by me. Qin Buyi, since you say so, then I will help you. Killing creatures and scattering souls. The killing blade became the size of a palm in Qin Buyi's hand. Qin Buyi mobilized the spiritual thoughts in the sea of consciousness to pour a palm-sized killing blade into his hand. After the spiritual thoughts were poured into the killing blade, it immediately turned into a golden color. Whoosh! The killing blade disappeared in Qin Buyi's hand, and came to Qin Qian's eyes the next second. Chong! Before the killing blade could penetrate into the clear sea of consciousness, it was stopped on the periphery. Tianhuang Sword Technique, Divine Control. The 3 inches in front of Qin Qian's eyes seemed to be a thick wall. It is difficult for the killing blade to advance even an inch. Qin Qian stretched out 2 jade-white fingers to hold the killing blade, and sneered. Is this all you can do? I really think highly of you. Whoosh! Qin Qian held the killing blade between her fingers and swung it towards Qin Buyi. Chong! Qin Buyi stretched out his hand to catch the killing blade. Zhang! The killing blade returned to its normal size in Qin Buyi's hand and made a sound. It was as if he was complaining that Qin Buyi could fight to such an extent against an opponent of such a level. Feeling the emotion of the killing blade, Qin Buyi smiled bitterly. He did not expect that Qin Qian could block the soul-dispersing sword technique that was always invincible so easily. Then I thought about it. Compared with Blue Star, the level of cultivation in the Tianhuang realm is so many streets higher. It's not surprising that there are ways to resist spiritual attacks here. Qin Qian, I also have spiritual attacks. It's disrespectful to come and go without reciprocating. Next, you also have a taste of my spiritual attacks. Tianhuang Sword Technique, Divine Thorn. The long sword in Qin Qian's hand emits a sword light that condenses in front of Qin Qian. Pure spiritual thoughts poured into this sword light, and the sword light became fainter and fainter, and finally disappeared. Go with. Qin Qian pointed her finger at Qin Buyi. Whoosh! Qin Buyi used his spiritual thoughts to try to find out the direction of Qin Qian's attack, but Qin Qian's spiritual sword light was as if it didn't exist, and Qin Buyi's spiritual energy couldn't detect it at all. Just when Qin Buyi was looking for it, sword light appeared in Qin Buyi's sea of consciousness. Laugh! Laugh! Qin Buyi didn't react at all. The sword light had already struck the sea of consciousness. By the time Qin Buyi was ready to defend himself, the sword light attack had already been completed. Qin Buyi could only watch the sword light dissipate after leaving 2 sword marks in the sea of consciousness. After Shihai was injured, Qin Buyi turned pale. Qin Qian saw Qin Buyi's face and joked, "Master Qin, how does this move of mine feel?" Qin Buyi spit out 2 words, "Very good." Holding the killing blade, Qin Buyi slashed at Qin Qian. Kill and annihilate. Half of the blade of the killing blade gradually faded and disappeared from sight. On the surface, Qin Buyi seemed to be holding a killing blade with only half of the blade. In fact, the other half of the killing blade that faded and disappeared did not really disappear, and was also held in Qin Buyi's hand. It's just that it can no longer be seen with the naked eye and spiritual thoughts. The Seshablade brandished a huge sword light. The sword light was half visible and half invisible, and it quickly killed Qin Qian. Qin Qian frowned slightly and clenched her sword. She felt a hint of danger from Qin Buyi's sword technique. Tianhuang Sword Technique Breaking. that the long sword struck at the middle part of the sword light, trying to split the sword light into two and completely cut it off. Chong, that the visible part of the sword's light collided hard with the long sword, the other half of the invisible part broke away from the sword light and continued to kill Qin Qian. Although Qin Qian couldn't see where the sword light was, a vague sense of crisis reminded her that if she didn't handle it carefully, she might be injured. Laugh, that the invisible part of the sword didn't give Qin Qian time, and instantly cut into Qin Qian's sea of consciousness. Hey! Hey! That he slashed 3 times in succession in the clear sea of consciousness, and the light of the sword dispersed in the sea of consciousness. Qin Qian's originally rosy face turned pale instantly. Qin Buyi joked in the same tone, Qin Qian, this is the true form of indecent treatment. Qin Qian looked at Qin Buyi in disbelief and said, how could you attack in such a weird way? The divine attack she just used took her hundreds of years to acquire, Qin Buyi's annihilation sword. Technique was obviously more advanced than the sword technique she used in her attack just now. To be able to perfectly combine the tangible and the intangible, this is simply impossible. Qin Qian murmured to herself. Qin Buyi's expression was exaggerated, and he deliberately taunted Qin Qian, stupid demon fox, there are still many things you haven't seen before. After saying this, Qin Buyi wanted to slap himself hard, and thought to himself, it's over, I've been assimilated by that guy in the system. The annihilation sword technique originally attacks both matter and spirit at the same time, with the purpose of completely erasing the things being attacked from the world. Qin Qian was angry at Qin Buyi, and her face turned white and blue, her expression switching back and forth. Looking at Qin Qian's look, Qin Buyi suddenly understood the joy of the system. Presumably when the system talks about me, my face is not much better than Qin Qian. Qin Qian suddenly laughed. Qin Buyi, you succeeded in irritating me. Qin Buyi, then why are you laughing when you are provoked? It's inexplicable. Qin Qian was choked by Qin Buyi and couldn't speak for a long time. The smile on her lips could not be closed, but she continued to smile and looked stupid. Qin Qian's expression froze for a moment, and after a long time she said with no emotion at all, Qin Buyi. Before Qin Qian could finish speaking, Qin Buyi interrupted as if possessed by the system. Next, you will definitely want to talk about skinning me, cramping my muscles, and a series of tortures that will make me incapable of life or death. Qin Qian was shocked and tried to open her mouth to say something, but she didn't know what to say. In the end, thousands of words turned into one sentence. Human, little thief, you die. Tian Huang's sword technique, the ultimate, that the spiritual energy in Qin Qian's body poured into the sword in her hand, and the sword emitted a dazzling light. In an instant, the entire sword turned into a lightsaber. Qin Qian held a lightsaber and charged towards Qin Buyi. Qin Buyi looked at the coming attack in front of him and said word by word. Killing creatures and killing immortals. That with all his strength concentrated on the killing blade, Qin Buyi slashed towards Qin Qian. The blade of the killing blade turned completely black in the blink of an eye. The extremely dark blade exuded crazy killing intent, as if it were a demon from the abyss. Chong! Chong! Laugh! Puff! What kind of sword technique is this? Qin Qian exclaimed. Chapter 90 The Domineering Immortal Killer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I can't help being surprised. Qin Buyi's sword was really too terrifying. Just now, an extremely domineering black blade slashed out from the extremely dark killing blade. The lightsaber in Qin Qian's hand collided with the black blade. The black sword light split the long sword directly and struck Qin Qian on the shoulder. Then, without any loss of momentum, it rushed directly towards the horizon. Qin Qian spit out a large mouthful of blood and looked at Qin Buyi. Obviously, Qin Buyi's sword skills far exceeded her expectations. Crack! A crisp sound came from the sword in Qin Qian's hand. Crack! The next second, cracks appeared on the long sword. Boom! The long sword exploded into pieces, and the fragments flew in all directions. Qin Buyi said, Qin Qian, the sword in your hand has been destroyed. What are you using to fight me? Is this the difference between the tribulation realm and the fusion realm you mentioned? I don't think it's that big. Qin Qian's shoulder was struck by Qin Buyi. Blood flowed out and penetrated Qin Qian's clothes. Qin Qian took out a pill from the space ring and took it, and the blood was quickly stopped. In a few breaths, the injury on his shoulder recovered as before. At the same time, there was a commotion in Qinyang City. Just now, an extremely domineering black blade flashed across the sky above Qinyang City. Nan Tianlong, the original lord of Qinyang City, has left. With the third prince, the new city chief's cultivation level is only in the late nascent soul stage. The cultivation level of others is even worse. The cultivation level of Wang Zong, the head of the Wang family, is only in the early stage of nascent soul. Facing Qin Buyi's combined sword and Zhang Dujia's full-strength slash, everyone felt extremely frightened. It seemed as if he would die immediately if he made even the slightest movement. Wang Zong stood in the direction of the Wang family and looked at the disappearing black sword light and said, "It's really terrifying. What kind of strong man can deliver such a terrifying blow?" The attack direction seems to be coming from the Falling Star Mountains. It's incredible that it can be so powerful when slashed from such a long distance. Wang Zong looked in the direction of Luoxing mountain range and guessed the situation inside Luoxing mountain range. Although he was curious about what happened in the Luoxing mountains, Wang Zong had no intention of going there. In this battle between the former, any casual aftermath is enough to kill him 10 or 8 times. Unless someone is crazy, no one would join in the fun. There are not a few people who think the same as Wang Zong. Ever since Qin Buyi killed all the demon kings in Luoxing mountain range, the danger of Luoxing mountain range has been greatly reduced, and even Wang Zong has almost forgotten it. Today, the long-dormant Luoxing mountain range was once again remembered by the strong men in Qinyang City. There was only a bare sword hilt left in Qin Qian's hand, and she threw the hilt away casually. Qin Qian said with an unwilling look, "If the crimson color in my hand hadn't been deceived by you, a little thief, I wouldn't have been able to block your sword." Qin Buyi took out a crimson long sword from the storage space, held it in his hand and asked, "Is this the sword you're talking about?" That when Qin Qian saw the crimson sword in Qin Buyi's hand, her eyes lit up and she said, "That's the sword." Qin Buyi asked jokingly, "Do you want to?" Unexpectedly, Qin Qian turned her head and stopped looking at the crimson sword and said, "I don't want your aunt anymore, I'll give it to you." Qin Buyi was a little surprised and asked in disbelief, "Is it true?" A smile appeared at the corner of Qin Qian's mouth, and she said with a look of success on her face, "Of course it's fake. How could your aunt not want my things?" "Idiot, you've been fooled." Qin Qian stretched out her hand and shouted softly, "Crimson is back." The crimson sword in Qin Buyi's hand immediately escaped Qin Buyi's control. Qin Buyi stretched out his big hand and firmly grasped the crimson sword to prevent it from leaving. Qin Qian sarcastically said, "Do you think this can stop me from getting crimson back?" After Qin Qian finished speaking, crimson disappeared immediately in Qin Buyi's hands. Qin Buyi looked at his empty palms, feeling a little distracted. Crimson appeared in Qin Qian's hand. Qin Qian said, "Qin Buyi, if you continue to put crimson into your weird space, I really have no way to do it. But you are so stupid that you actually took it out. Do you think my things are so easy to get?" Qin Buyi sighed slightly. "Oh, I didn't expect that after playing with eagles all day long, one day I would be pecked in the eye by an eagle." Qin Qian said proudly, "Little thief, do you feel very regretful now?" "Haha." Qin Buyi said seriously, "My heart is full of regret now, so I decided that the remaining things you have will be sealed in my storage space forever." Qin Qian was very proud when she heard the first part, but when Qin Buyi talked about the second part, she suddenly couldn't be happy anymore. If Qin Buyi didn't take out Qin Qian's treasure, there was really nothing she could do. Qin Qian suddenly felt like she had picked up sesame seeds and lost the watermelon. He pointed at Qin Buyi with the crimson sword in his hand and said, "Qin Buyi, if you return the treasure to me now, I will spare your life, otherwise." Qin Buyi, "What else? If you know you can't kill me, then change your mind and spare my life. I remember that you wanted to torture me to death before, so you changed your mind just like that?" "Qin Qian, I'm waiting for you to kill me, come on, do it." Qin Qian, "You." Tian Huang sword technique, divine lock. The crimson long sword emitted streaks of crimson sword light, and the sword light enveloped Qin Buyi. "Qin Qian, since you are so ignorant of praise, I will help you." The sword light suddenly turned into chains, locking Qin Buyi tightly. Qin Buyi tried to break free of the chains, but they didn't move at all. Tian Huang sword technique, divine thorn, a sword light condensed on the crimson sword, and the sword light quickly faded, and it came towards Qin Buyi, it's this trick again, Qing Qian, if you don't eat the toast, you'll be fined with wine. You can just go and die. 8-9 mysterious skills, act on the heaven and the earth. Qin Buyi shouted loudly. Crack! Crack! Qin Buyi's figure grew larger, and the chains on his body made a snapping sound. Click! After Qin Buyi's body became 100 feet in size, the chains were broken, the killing blade appeared in Qin Buyi's knowledge sea, and he was ready. Qin Qian's sword light attack came to Qin Buyi Shihai. Qin Buyi controlled the killing blade and rushed forward immediately, crushing the sword light into powder. The killing blade left the sea of consciousness, grew to dozens of lengths, and was held in Qin Buyi's hand. Qin Buyi said to Qin Qian, "The same tricks are useless to me." Qin Qian looked at Qin Buyi, who was 100 feet in size, and murmured, "The legendary magical power, the power of heaven and earth. It is said that there were only a few people who knew it in ancient times. How could you have such an amazing inheritance? Who are you?" Qin Buyi, "My eyesight is not bad, I know the laws of heaven and earth." After saying that, Qin Buyi pretended to be polite and said, "I am the reincarnation of the great power of the ancient times. You little foxes don't want to pay homage to me when you see me,